Thank you, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for the background report. Now, joining us for the conversation is Barrister Adebayo Shitu, former Minister of Communications. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, we also have for the conversation joining us from Lagos via Zoom, Taiwo Akingbehin, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, Chemical, Biological, Radiological and Nuclear from the Nigeria Police Force. Many thanks for joining us, Taiwo Akingbehin.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. And from our Ibadan studio, we have Saheed Akiode, Zonal Coordinator, NEMA Southwest. Thank you so much for joining us, and compliments of the season.
You're welcome.
And we also have joining us via Zoom, still from Ibadan, Professor Benga Okunlola, Head of Department of Geology, University of Ibadan, President Geological Society of Africa, and past President Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society. Gentlemen, you're all welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll begin from the studio. Let's begin with Barrister Adebayo Shitu. On Tuesday, the whole nation stood still when this happened. Nobody knew the scale of the explosion, and lives have been lost, structures have been destroyed. We cannot ascertain the number of people who have died and those who are still under the rubble. Investigation is still going in. Then let's have an update of what's going on.
Well, I want to start by expressing very deep grief and sympathy for all our people in Oyo State, particularly in Ibadan, where the event occurred. My own house is about 4 kilometers from the scene of the event, and yet there was great impact in the buildings in my compound. I mean, that is to show you the extent of, what happened. And if you look at the pictures that we see on television, you can favorably compare it with what is happening in Gaza, resulting from the destruction from the bombings. You can even say that the intensity of the explosion in Ibadan is worse than what is has been happening in Gaza. So this would give you the situation of deep sorrow that our people in Ibadan has been involved in. It is true, and I want to commend Mr. President for setting up an interministerial committee to really investigate. As of today, we don't have a clear-cut, cause of the event, except that, mining, resources were unfortunately kept in Nigeria's first housing estate, which is Bodija Estate. Bodija Estate is supposed to be an elite environment, but unfortunately, because these miners who are suspected to be involved have enough money to rent apartments within that elite estate, and unfortunately, out of ignorance, I believe, I don't think it is mischief, it is out of ignorance that they kept some of these their materials within the estate.
Before Inyari comes in briefly, you said it's a highbrow area, it's an elite area, and a lot of security must be around that area, because we have a deputy governor there, we have so many elites living there. And how did they move these explosives into this special area? Because we're reading reading up that an Okada man. How can a Okada man come and rent a place in a place like that?
It is also possible. You see, our experience shows that estate, which I said is the first, estate, residential estate in Nigeria, a lot of the people who originally owned the houses there must have passed on. Their children perhaps must have relocated overseas. And so they will be interested only in the highest person who can pay rent there. Of course, the Okada, the so-called Okada rider himself must have been an agent of suspected, foreigners who live in the area. And for the Okada, he won't know the extent of potential damage that some of the things they bring in, portend for the environment and for the citizens.
All right, many thanks, Barrister Shitu. Of course, reading reports, if you like, investigation from Ibadan, and hearing the governor speak, there are reports that foreigners are actually the ones behind the company, and all of that. But we'll get all of those details, and know what's the way forward at this point, looking at the kind of destruction that this event has caused us in this country. Let's quickly get to Ibadan studio now. We have Sahid Akoide, the Zonal Coordinator of NEMA there. I'd just like to find out from you, before we get deep into the conversation, the efforts of your organization so far in managing the aftermath of this disaster. What is the update as regards search and rescue operation, and also in terms of delivering relief to those who were affected?
Yeah, my agency, part of our work is to coordinate, manage disaster and ramification. As soon as the event occurred, we got the report. We quickly activated all the response agency to move to the site of the incident. Before we were there, the anti-bomb squad were already on ground, trying to carry out scan or search for possibility of any further explosions, until when it was ascertained that that particular area is now free of any possible explosion. Other stakeholders, the Red Cross, the fire service, the civil defense, were all moved in to the site to continue our search and rescue operations. As I'm talking to you, search and rescue operation is still ongoing to still discover any possibility whether there could be victims, any dead body. Those that have been taken off have been taken to the hospital. Those they are still receiving treatment in the hospital. As I'm saying, the search and rescue is going on. The loss, the destruction is very massive. Now, during this process, the DG was on ground to really assess the situations, and we have sent in our report to assess the situations. Possibly very soon, the federal government will intervene accordingly to really know what commensurate measure of relief materials are to be given to all affected measures. But now, our search and rescue is ongoing.
Please, could you give us, just a quick update as at this minute, the number of lives that were lost in that incident, and then, casualties, and the number of houses too that were brought down?
Today, 6 lives has been lost, while we have 75 victims, 5 hospitalized. They are receiving treatment. Some of those 75, some of them have some minor injury, and they have come to the hospital and go away. But those who are displaced have been accommodated in hotels, and the state government is still intervening. And we have equally set up an emergency operations center where all affected victims can go there to give us their demographic data to really determine, to profile them, their profile, to really ascertain, to give us relevant information on what exactly they have lost in this disaster.
It's a very, very sad, day when this thing happened, and two-story buildings came down, and still the search is on. Has it been on 24 hours since the incident happened, or you've paused at a point in time, because a lot of people are saying some of their relatives are not receiving calls and they actually do not know where they are? So is the search and rescue ongoing, or you're putting a stop and then you continue later on? Let's get your details.
As at now, the search and rescue will resume this morning again. It was only yesterday all stakeholders went on recess to really continue this morning. Since Tuesdays, the search and rescue has been 24 hours, except yesterday, where we decided let everybody go on recess to tire and resume this morning.
All right, thank you, Mr. Akoide. Of course, we'll get back to you so you can give us some more details, as regards that, effort there to, get the people of Ibadan, those affected in the explosion, to, feel some sense of comfort in this very difficult period. Let's quickly get to Professor Gbenga Okunlola now. Professor Gbenga Okunlola, I'm sure you have followed developments in Ibadan, since Tuesday when the report came in, about the explosion. I want to find out from you, because you're head of Department of Geology, University of Ibadan. All right, it looks like we lost the connection with Professor Okunlola. As soon as we reconnect with him. Okay, Professor Okunlola, if you are there. So my question to you, is to tell us the kind of materials used for mining. For some of us who do not, really know what kind of materials these are, give us details of the components of the materials used for mining, and then what kind of location such materials are supposed to be kept, and then if there's supposed to be regulations as regards how these materials get into the country, how they are used, and the kind of people who are supposed to use these materials. Could you please just, make this clear for us? Of course, we need to hear your perspective.
If we got the question, I think you can respond to that.
All right, Taiwo Akungbehin, Assistant Commissioner of Police. I'm sure that, looking at your capacity and the department you handle in the Nigerian Police Force, you can also throw some perspective into the question. Okay, well, it looks like our guest that are out of the studio was still trying to get a connection right, but of course that would go right. We have the former Minister of Communications right here, so yes, I'm sure everything will go right with the connection. But I want to get back to you, Barrister Shitu. I wanted us to understand what kind of materials we're dealing with here. There are certain things that you cannot just bring to a residential area. There are certain things that shouldn't be handled by just anybody. We're talking about Okada riders bringing in, materials of this magnitude that could cause this kind of damage, so all of those things, and then of course we hope that in the coming days we'll also get to hear from the ministry about how they go about giving licenses to people, and all of that. So Barrister Shitu, I'd like you to just respond to one angle that a lot of people have been talking about in terms of how foreigners do business in our country.
Yes.
Well, we have what is called ECOWAS. ECOWAS tries to unify the entire 15 countries in the West African sub-region and make them, have a sense of, being part and parcel of any part of, the sub-region. So once they come in, a lot of them don't even need visa to come into the country now. They need just the, ECOWAS passport, and they are considered almost as citizens. Just like Nigerians go to Togo, go to Benin, go to Ghana and others and do business. These other people, particularly from Mali, from Senegal, from Gambia, also have almost unhindered access to come into Nigeria. I think those people are really experts in mining, and they are in a position to get to land and be able to even determine, whether spiritually or otherwise, I don't know, but they're able to determine that there's some mineral here. And they, you know, said they go into the bush, they go into a forest, you know, and do business. So what they are supposed to do is to get license. Of course, the Nigerian government will grant license to anybody who wants to do business and who is considered not having any negative report about him. And when the foreigner comes, you hardly know anything about him. So, but I think what has happened in Ibadan now will be an eye-opener to the Federal Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development to really go back to their laws and regulations and be able to come up with a more comprehensive, guidelines as to the licensing processes and so on and so forth. I have information that somewhere in Ojo is a well-settled part of Ibadan. There's mining activities officially going on in parts of Ojo. People go there and, everybody wants money. I mean, once a miner comes and is able to really, bring out money because of what is called the Nigerian factor. What is the Nigerian factor? Nigerian factor means corruption. It means, lack of integrity. It means, collaboration. It means greed. And it means cutting corners. So once people get money, they lose their senses.
Exactly. We just can't rule out the big
so it is a very big problem. Like I said, I believe this one will get the government to be stricter in the licensing processes and in the operations. The law, because we've never had such a thing before, so it was just business as usual before now. But now with what has happened, I expect that government will now, even where minerals are found in settled communities, the government must say no. For the sake of the lives and safety and security of people living there, we would overlook, such a situation. People should rather go to the, like all the equipments, all the explosives being kept there, they are not supposed to be kept in living environments.
They're supposed to
be in the bush.
Yes.
And then properly
at the site of the mining itself, that's where it's supposed to be kept.
The intensity of the explosion, like I said, and I'm saying this with all seriousness, is worse than what is happening in Gaza now. 58 houses were destroyed, completely destroyed, in a settlement like Bodija. I mean, it's a very sad thing, and it shows that we Nigerians have really, missed out on being, suspicious and in being, perceptive as to what we should allow and what we should not allow. Of course, criminals will never give notice. Those who bring in those, explosive will not have given notice to anybody. And that's why the fact that we say that the place is an estate. Of course, there's free ingress and egress. There's free access and exiting. There are no gates into the estate, and anybody can come in, drive in, and bring in whatever. Nobody asks questions. But now neighbors should from now begin to suspect, particularly those who are likely to be involved in mining. The average Nigerian, except the very low cadre, people, and they themselves will not be directly involved. It is these foreigners who are experts in mining who come in and engage Nigerians as laborers in their mining activities.
But they say they have more than 10,000 Nigerians working for them.
Well, as laborers, not as experts, not as managers. They are just laborers. Yes. And for an average laborer in Nigeria, if you pay him 50,000 naira a month, that is big money.
And a lot of Nigerians have complained that even if they go for the license, the highest bidder gets it. Let's bring in the expert now, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, Taiwo Akimbehe, into the conversation. We've been listening to the conversation in the studio and from Ibadan, Nema from Ibadan. This is your forte, this is your expertise, this is your area, and the Explosive Act is the law that sort of governs the use and handling of explosives in Nigeria. It has guidelines and procedures, that should be used before explosives are issued to anybody. How did this explosive come into Nigeria? Was it authorized by the authorities for them to bring it into this country and to store it? And what is the danger of radiation after this, the after effect of this explosive explosion that took place in Ibadan? How will it affect the residents health-wise? Let's have your take.
Hello. Hello? Yeah. To possess explosives in Nigeria, every individual is not having the freedom to just possess explosives anyhow. We have the laid down routes that you have to pass through. If you want to engage in explosive possession, first thing you need to do is to register your company with the CAC. Having done that, Section 9, Subsection 1 of Explosive Act 1994, Explosive Regulation 1997 states that a responsible person shall be appointed by the company, and that responsible person will proceed to the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development to apply through Form 4 to apply for permits to buy explosives. If this is approved, the mines permit will be given to such applicants who is the prospective user. He will now, the permit that has been approved will be forwarded to NSA, Office of the National Security Advisor, for what we call explosive shutting. NSA will shut the explosive permits, and that will be the second vital document that such an applicant will have. Then he will proceed to the police to obtain what we call authorization to move explosives, which shall be granted by the Office of the Inspector General of Police. It is when he has the three vital documents that such a person can embark on purchase of explosives materials. However, we have what we call magazines. Explosive magazines are the structures that are supervised by the Ministry of Solid Minerals and Development for the purpose of safekeeping explosive materials with serious respect to security and safety. If anybody possesses explosives without going through this laid down route that I've just mentioned, that person is definitely possessing explosives illegally. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. I still want to stay with you a bit. Following the revelations by the Oyo State government that these miners are foreigners, they are from Mali and all that. Well, Yusuf Suwani, the president Oyo State chapter of the Economic Community of West African States, said they are in Nigeria, they have their license, they are legally operating in this country. So they must have gone through all these processes that you've outlined. And so far, has there been any arrest?
Hello, you see, like this very subject matter at hand, that is the scenario in Ibadan. Definitely, the company was a lawful miner some times ago. With the brief investigation we've conducted so far, I wouldn't want to preempt the outcome of the investigation anyway. But till 2014, the company was a lawful miner that had the approval from the cadastre. But due to litigation and some other forces, the operation had to stop. Section 62 of Explosives Act 1964 and Explosive Regulation 67 states that at the end of any prospect, the Ministry of Solid Minerals and Development shall give directives on what will happen to the remnant of the explosives. However, only God knows what happens to the remnant of the explosives as at when they concluded due to litigation, when they ended the project or the prospect there. So, for the fact that somebody has the license to purchase explosives, he may still operate in an illegal way. For instance, if he has taken more than what was approved in the permit, that is an illegal handling. If he has gone to store explosives in his house, like what has happened in Ibadan, instead of storing them in the designated magazines, that is illegal handling. But actually, he might have the permit, he might have the license to mine or whatsoever. But once he deviates from the specification, from the instruction in the permit given to him, he has started acting illegally. Does that answer that?
All right, thank you, ACP Taiwo Akingbehin. We'll definitely get back to you, but I just hope our connection with Professor Gbenga Okunlola is much better now. You know, I asked a question earlier, and if he got that question, you know, I'd like him to give a response to it. Professor Okunlola, my initial question to you was for you to just give us a background of the kind of materials we're talking about here, looking at the magnitude of the destruction, you know, that the explosion caused. A lot of people are wondering, you know, what kind of materials are these, and then you know, should the materials have been, you know, in a residential area like it was, and then who are those that should handle these materials? Because we have security concerns at the moment.
Exactly.
And you know, with this kind of revelation from mining materials, we just hope that we don't get to, you know, I mean, so please could you respond, you know, to my question? Give us, you know, put into perspective, make it clearer for those who are not in this field to understand the kind of materials that these explosives are, and the kind of people that should handle them.
Are you hearing me now? If you can hear me clearly. Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, now, you see, the issues are so clear. It all borders on everybody doing what is right. The laws are there. There is no mining without the use of explosives. You have to break the rocks. You have to blast the rocks. You have to now look at what is inside the rocks, the materials you are looking for. You cannot do this without using the explosive materials. The Assistant Commissioner of Police had emphasized the way things should be done, and that is the position of the law. Now, what is actually happening is, are there effective monitoring to see that these procedures are followed? I think that is what every arm of governance that has to do with the security in terms of handling of explosives, issuing of licenses for explosives, and even the actual mining procedure. We all need to do something about it. Let me tell you something. Before you can even blast in the field, you need a blasting certificate. You need the monitoring from the inspector of mines. As I'm talking to you now, and I hope this disaster will not be repeated in several places, there is indiscriminate blasting of rocks going on all over, whether in the quarries, whether in the mining fields, whether in the artisanal mining fields, or even the small-scale mining fields. It's important that there is close monitoring of these materials. Explosive materials are not supposed to be stored at all in residential houses. As a matter of fact, they are absolutely controlled. There should be in every mining field a well-constructed magazine where these explosives are kept. Not only well-constructed magazines, registered magazines with the safety procedures clearly outlined. So there have been breaches Now, I also don't want to preempt investigation, but if this has to do with explosives handled by miners, whether legal or illegal, there had been breaches. And I hope lessons have been learned. What do we need to do? The man that has a license, of course, licenses are issued by the Mining Cadastre Office, and that is where this work of the Mining Cadastre Office stops. The Mines Inspectorate takes it on from there. The security agencies also take it on from there in terms of monitoring how these explosives are used and are deployed in mining. So we need to get all these procedures right, and every sector that is involved, every sector of governance that is involved, should endeavor to do the right thing. Monitoring by the security agents. There is no reason why explosives should move around without the knowledge of the security agencies. No reason at all. There is no reason why there should be any mining activity or blasting activity in any of the mines fields without the mines officer being present, without the blasting certificate being issued out, without even the monitoring of the blasting. And this is all important. Explosive handling is a very dangerous act. It's very, very dangerous. And you need experts. You need the knowledge. And even the storage of explosives is something that is very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And I'm emphasizing it with very, very, that's good English. Because anytime it is mishandled, there can be disaster, as we have seen in the case of Ibadan. So I believe lessons have been learned. It's unfortunate that lives have been lost. It's unfortunate that properties have been destroyed. But I think this is a clarion call for every one of us that is involved in this process to do the right thing. We should be strict about issues like this. There is no mining without blasting. No, there is no mining without explosives. So how do we do this? The laws are there, the procedures are there, and this should be clearly monitored. And everybody should follow and do the right thing. Thank you very much.
I'm still going to stay with you, Prof. You know, as a geologist, you know, the explosion has taken place and the debris is there and rescue missions are still ongoing. What is the danger of still having explosives in these rubbles there? What is the danger to the rescue mission itself?
This is where the security and the bomb experts and explosive experts should come in. That place should have been cordoned off by now, and I believe it is cordoned off. And there should be no activity going on there until that place is swept. When I mean swept, there should be, you know, the equipment, and they know about this, to really go all over the place and detect whether there are still some unexploded materials, whether there are still some TNTs around there, whether you still have some of these gelatin and all that could still explode. So for the next 1 month, there should be close observation in that area to detect inch by inch whether you still have any kind of unexploded material there. Then secondly, I think what should be done, there had been a lot of psychological disruption in the life of the people. This is where the confidence building should return. The state governments, the emergency organization, medical doctors, clinical psychologists should integrate and begin to work on this. People's lives have been disrupted, properties have been destroyed, and there is a lot of psychological trauma. Now, let me say this. In terms of maybe environmental pollution, radiation, I don't really think there is much of an issue there. No, if all the explosives had been dispensed with, I don't think there should be any problem. What we need to do at worst is to see that maybe we scrape the surface of the areas and see that at least within the soil levels around the area, 250 meters or 500 meters of the radius around there, we scrape and see, and then just take some samples, test for maybe possible latent radiation. But if there is none, I don't think there could be any serious after effects more than what has happened if all the unexploded materials are still discovered. So I think that is what we should do now. rehabilitation, reassurance, confidence building, psychological trauma treatment, and maybe possible compensation. And all those who are involved shouldn't go scot-free, because if this is not attended to, we're going to start having recurrence of this in the future. The mining fields and even on the quarries should be closely monitored from now. Movement of explosives should be closely monitored from now. Indiscriminate mining is a problem. The government is trying. Look, Nigeria is a wide field. As I'm talking to you, there are mining or extraction going on in over 2,000 places in Nigeria as I'm talking to you. In Oyo State alone, there are not less than 60 locations, 70 locations where mining is going on and where blasting is going on a weekly basis, if not on a daily basis. This needs to be monitored. The personnel involved in this are not enough. How many mines inspectors, officers are in Oyo State, for example? Are they up to 5? Are they up to 6? I'm talking of the Olode area, Olojuoro area, up to Ogun State, the Oyo North, from Shaki to Komu, to what do you call it now? All those areas in Oyo North, Iwerele, you have not less than about 80, 90 mining fields in that area, and I'm not exaggerating. Can they cover this area? So we have to look at proper ways in which we can monitor the explosives, the blasting,
Professor Okunlola, many thanks for some of the comments that you have made there. You have actually touched on very sensitive areas that should be looked at. I'd like to get to the NEMA official now, Saida Koide, the zonal coordinator NEMA Southwest. You heard Professor talk about some of the measures that should be taken now, even as you go about your search and rescue. I want to find out if you have taken those measures. And then as regards the victims, you also heard the prof, it's not just getting treatment. Some kind of support should be given to them at this point, just so that they can be balanced psychologically. Their lives have been disrupted, property destroyed, some have lost loved ones. Are you taking this route in making sure that these people do not develop other health conditions in future as a result of this particular incident?
We are taking the right step with all the response agency. With the situation of things now, everybody has gone to the there's a collective decision now on what exactly to be doing now in terms of how do we check those who are really affected, what kind of psychological effect. Some people are affected, they have some challenges of eardrum, and those things still need some attention, which for now they are taken care of. While the stakeholders are equally meeting to look at other side effects that may come around, like this trauma, which the professor has emphasized, and how do we keep everybody on check in terms of within the residential area, what form of landlord-tenant association to really know who and who reside in a particular area, what is the nature of their business, how do they carry out their business, is this legal or illegal? So the appropriate agency are now taking note of this and now working around the clock to ensure that such occurrence does not really occur. And in terms of the agency, those who are affected will adequately be compensated, and I think my agency is working assiduously to ensure that very soon the relief package will be sent to them through the state government for disbursement to all affected victims. I think all stakeholders, we are still working hard to ensure that no stone is left unturned, ensures that those people affected are given proper treatment, and government is going to take the right step to really compensate them accordingly. Those who are in the hospitals, the state government is taking up their bill. Those who are displaced, who does not have accommodation again, the government is there in a hotel paying for their accommodations. I think all around, everybody is on his toes to ensure that those affected does not really suffer. And we are trying to ensure that normalcy return to that particular area. Thank you.
Said that the place should be cordoned, cleared for like 1 month or 2 months to make sure that there are no more explosives there. Have you taken such actions?
Yes, currently the anti-bomb squad is still working there, and on daily basis we are really going there to really doing some scanning and see. With the level of destruction, I think once the test of integrity is concluded, we will be able to know what exactly to do. For now, no buildings is allowed to stay there or to be erected, not until integrity test is really concluded. So for now, nobody is allowed to stay. And what is being done is to ensure that everybody clears away from there, and while the search and rescue is going on. I think very soon, with the level of work that is going there, with the anti-bomb squad, everybody is trying to see that no such occurrence really happen within that environment, even outside that particular environment, with the level of awareness we have here now. So we as an agency, we are trying to create more awareness on what should be done to really sensitize the people within the environment, to really bring stakeholders together to ensure that such does not really occur. And if it is going to occur, what's going to be our level of preparedness in ensuring that we nip it in the bud so that we don't have such occurrence again.
Right, let's get to ACP now. Taiwo Akingbehi, you have already, told us the procedure, if you like, the process on how, these explosives got in, and then how, they should be used and all of that. We've also had a professor, give us in details how it should be. But now that we have the situation in Ibadan, I want to know, what does the law say as regards penalty, for causing explosion and endangering people's lives? I hear that there's an investigation going on, and the governor is sitting on that matter, and I'm sure that a thorough job will be done. But just in case a report comes out, and then of course we have the company in question, we have those who are behind the company, what does the law say now that they have endangered people's lives and caused serious damage to property?
Thank you. Thank you so much. You see, the law is very sacrosanct about committing offenses against explosives handling. Section 65, Explosive Act 1994, Explosive Regulation 1997 states categorically that anybody who has contravened any provisions in this act or regulation shall be guilty of an offense and liable on conviction to a fine of £100 or to imprisonment for 1 year or both. However, the punishment this time around goes beyond this. Anybody who has engaged in any act of illegality and death results or resulted from it has committed murder. Definitely, one of the crimes to charge these people for is murder. Issue of terrorism doesn't come in this time around. But they engage in illegality, that is handling explosives in a wrong way. Hence, illegality has been built. Now, the act of illegality has transcended to the level of causing death of human beings, meaning they have committed murder. Besides this, unlawful possession is a criminal act too, either of explosives or any other thing that they cannot give satisfactory account of how they come by it, they are criminally liable. And as I've said, under Explosive Act 1994, Explosives Regulation 1997, Section 2, explosives have been divided to be under the controls of either the Chief Inspector of Mines or Inspector General of Police. These explosives we are talking about now fall under the ambit of explosives under the control of the Chief Inspector of Mines. And it is the duty of Inspector of Mines to give them permits. Anybody who does not go through the provisions in this act and regulation definitely has committed, and that is why I said that such a person shall be guilty of an offence and liable on conviction to a fine of payment of money or imprisonment or even both. And also, let me quickly respond to what Professor Pulola said briefly about what should be happening by now. The police EOD took charge of the security of that place as soon as it happened. The telegraph vehicle to confirm whether total detonation has happened or we still have unexploded substances around was immediately positioned there. As I speak with you, the place has been confirmed bomb-free. The investigation that is going on is just to make sure that we remove some residuals for forensic analysis to know the kind of explosives that really got used. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, ACP Taiwo Akimbehin. As the conversation begins to round up, we'll come back to you later on the role of the subnationals in protecting their citizens when it comes to explosive permits and mining in their domain. We'll take a break. When we return, Good Morning Nigeria continues. Don't go away.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA, and we still have guests with us. The discussion this morning is, just an update on the Ibadan explosion, which happened last Tuesday, and just quickly get to Barrister Adebayo Shitu now. While Professor Gbenga Okonola was speaking, you wanted to make some comments. Of course, you would respond to some of the things that he has said, but I also want to find out from you what you think that we could do about illegal miners. Now, outside the Ibadan situation, there are reports in some other parts of this country that some of these illegal miners are responsible for the security situation. In certain parts of this country where they intend to go about their illegal mining programs. They find a way to evacuate the people, so they cause tension, they cause security situation, sometimes even go ahead to get some of them killed, and so they run away in a bid. So and once the residents, the settlers leave, the illegal miners come in and then begin to carry out their activities. All of this happening in this country. I'm just imagining somebody who owns a property now, and now you're homeless. You don't have a pin, you don't have anything. And how would you survive from such a situation? What can we do in this country to be able to bring the situation of illegal miners, at least reduce it to a reasonable extent, such that we can protect our citizens?
And also, what can the security forces do to stop, the insecurity in those areas where normally these miners mine these precious stones?
You would recall that when the police officer was talking, he was referring to laws of 1997, 1994 and all of that. Obviously, those laws have become archaic. They have become irrelevant to present day situation of mining in Nigeria. So the first thing that has to be done is for the National Assembly to try to update the relevant laws about mining and possession of explosives and all of that. And that will require a whole lot of getting geologists, getting other experts to come together to advise the National Assembly as to what new law would fit into the present situation of mining in Nigeria. There's no doubt that there's a very good interconnectivity between illegal mining and insecurity, particularly in the northwestern part of Nigeria. Having said that, the Ibadan issue really is not about illegal mining or legal mining. It is about this unlawful storage of, mining, resources in settlements, human settlement. Because it is possible that those who possess those, items are legal miners who are properly licensed. But whether you are properly licensed or not, do you have a right to keep explosives of that magnitude in a residential, place? The officer in charge of, mining, who spoke earlier on, spoke about, I think it was a professor, that the requirement is that there should be magazines for keeping of explosives, certainly not in residential areas. Mining is essentially done in the forests, in the bushes and all of that. Why don't you create those magazines? Why don't you establish the magazines very close to mining sites? Why bring them? And for the extent of damage that has happened, you know that the quantum of explosives cannot be a small matter. It must be very gargantuan in terms of it, the quantum of it. So the whole thing essentially is about getting the right laws to guide mining operations and to guide all those involved, and also to ensure that the police and the mining inspectorate people follow the law and try to enforce it. So it has also been stated that in your state with about 60 mining sites, perhaps they have only 5 inspectors or 6 inspectors. How would they be able to cope in 60 locations? So again, the Federal Minister of Mines and Mineral Resources must employ more hands and train them properly. I don't know the extent of training that people who have been there perhaps for decades would have had to cope with new trends in mining and mineral resources development. So like I said, we need to update the laws to make it more relevant to today's situation of mining and mineral resources, and then also the storage of the resources that they will require to engage in mining.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me bring in Professor Okunlola into the conversation now. You've had Barrister Adebayo to outline some of the things that government need to do, and what's your thoughts on that? Some people are saying the federal government should not just set up a committee. There should be an executive order and an update of the law on mining, because mining in the 60s and in the 50s brought a lot of money into Nigeria, and now cannot contribute even up to 1% to the GDP. Unfortunately, we have so much in this country. It's a gift. God has given us so much, and the government should be involved in the mining of whatever comes out of our land, and not allow, yes, foreigners can come and work. We cannot say we cannot operate in isolation, but the federal government needs to have an executive order on mining, so that the laws can be looked into and then updated. Let's have your take.
All right,
yeah,
Professor Okunlola.
The laws are there. We may not really need to have an executive order. All we need to do is just to enforce the current law. You see, the current mining law.
All right,
2007 is one of the and all that. They have seen that it is well crafted. All we need
challenge. Yes, let's go to ACP now, Taiwo, to talk about that. We talked about, they're saying that there should be upgrading of the law, that's the existing laws on mining, and some states actually have said there should be no more mining in their state. And my colleague talked about the insecurity in some of the states where mining takes place. driving out the people who live there, and then illegal mining is taking over there. What is the security forces going to do about that?
Come again, please.
We talked about updating the laws that are existing now on mining in this country, and we've seen a lot of insecurity in areas where the mining takes place. What are the security agencies going to do? Because some states have said there should be no more miners in their state. They're saying they will no longer give license to miners in their state. What is the role of the security agencies in helping the subnationals to ensure that the scale of insecurity does not escalate beyond what it is now?
Thank you. You see, I want to state that cutting off the head is not the solution to headache. Somebody has headache, should take pain relief so that the headache will subside. The arrangement of security in Nigeria about explosive, as at now, sincerely, is very robust. In every magazine, you have the installation of CCTV, you have high fence with barbed wires, you have visibility sighting there, you have enough lighting, you have the surveillance tower. With all these things, it has been very, very uneasy for hoodlums to break into magazines. Even when we talk of explosive escorts, that is movement of explosives. In those days, we were using only 2 armed men to escort explosive materials. At the moment, we are using 7 armed men to escort, even if it is one detonator. We have been having rough time with these hoodlums, and we have been giving it to them hot. The record is straight, even to NSA level. We have confronted the hoodlums, and the superpower from EOD armed men made them to calm down. It is on record too that we have never lost any explosive to any attack. Whenever we have movement of explosives, we have been delivering intact. The record is there to check. This very one that has happened, I don't want to preempt, as I've said earlier. You know, the shelf life of high explosive is between 1 year, even to 10 years. The security arrangement now, you cannot compare it with the arrangement of security as of 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. It might be reasonably suggested that this miner kept these explosives right in the house in those days when he was still in operation. And he did not own up or open up to the mines operatives so that they would have advised him in conformity with section 62 of explosive law 1964 and regulation 1967. And that constituted an offense against him, keeping the remnants or whatsoever or piled up in this residential apartment. So as for the security arrangement now, I think everything is still intact. Only what you need to do is to engage community policing strategy. See something, say something. The local people are not helping situation. When you notice that some people are operating illegally, when you notice that they are doing things without the presence of the officials, then you should know that these things they are doing are wrong. Call the necessary authorities to inform them of the abnormal operations going on in your jurisdiction or in your areas. It is when this one is done, then we know that we have extended the security tentacles even to the grassroots. Thank you.
All right, ACP, I'll just stay with you briefly. Initially, you already gave us what the penalty is, for offenders, those who are involved, who actually got these materials and then the explosion occurred. But I want to find out, would there be penalty for agencies of government? That should be a part of the process, getting this company licensed, ensuring that the materials they're using for mining are properly kept and all of that. Because in some situations, and then from reports that we're hearing now, some of the mining companies are coming out and say, oh well, we follow due process, we reach out to the Ministry of Mines, we do all of that and all that. So if police, or if you like, if some security agents were with them, to take these materials to that residential area, if staff of the Ministry of Mines are also aware of where these materials are, is there anything the law would do about them, just so that we can check this? Because sometimes people don't just come from outside the country to operate on their own. They have backing from people right here, or people in high places, if you like. So I mean, what do you intend to do in this case? It's just so that we can check this properly.
You see, the penalty in the Explosive Act 1994 and Regulation 97, to be sincere, is not commensurate with the offence committed by these illegal miners. But however, I think something has to be done about that, so that higher sanctions will be placed on the people committing these grievous offences. But it is clear in section 65 that any offence in these explosive acts is punishable either by payment of a sum of £100 or imprisonment for 1 year, or both. You can imagine that you can't just compare the punishment stated in the explosive act with the offence committed. And that was why I said, like this very one, we can go higher by saying they have engaged in illegal action, and the illegal action has transcended. It has gone to the level of causing the death of somebody. Murder is a capital offense, is a capital offense, and the punishment for murder is a capital punishment. I mean, capital offense, then it's a felony, and the offense, the penalty is a felonious penalty.
We just hope that at the end of the day, all the corporates will be brought to book, from the top, to the list involved in this particular incident, without anyone being spared at all. Irrespective of your position, whether in government or anywhere, or even as a miner, no matter how much you have contributed to the Nigerian state, it doesn't matter in this case.
Yes, we must begin to
deal with offenders
in this country, so that they will know that we have laws, existing laws that deals with issues like that. Like Barrister Adebayo, we've talked about NEMA helping, and let's talk about the community. You're part of the community. How has the community come out, to respond to this disaster?
The community is still in mourning, because it's the most unimaginable thing that you would happen, and the theater would be like a war theater. I mean, imagine the destruction of 58 buildings in an estate. That's a whole city that has been destroyed, apart from deaths which have also occurred, apart from people who have had injuries, not to talk of the psychological thing. So I think that one of the lessons we must learn is that we must not only be each other's keeper, but must suspect every movement by people who are likely to be involved in mining specifically now, and general issues that could bring about destruction of lives and property.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Adebayo Shitu, former Minister of Communications. Thank you for joining us for the conversation. Of course, we hope that at the end of the day, those who caused this destruction are brought to book, like we have said. We also want to thank Taiwo Akingbenhim, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, who joined us via Zoom from Lagos. Thank you so much, ACP, for your insight, and we hope that there's a review to that act, just so that people can be more careful the way they go about their business. And Sahid Akoide, Coordinator, NEMA Southwest, many thanks for joining us for the conversation. We hope to also hear more from NEMA as regards what you're doing to to get relief materials to the victims, and we hope that the relief materials are commensurate with what they've lost.
Yes, with what they lost.
You know. Okay, and then Professor Gbenga Okunlola, head of Department of Geology, University of Ibadan, and President Geological Society of Africa, and past President Nigerian Mining and Geosciences. Thank you so much for joining us for the conversation, Prof. Okay, so that's the conversation this morning on Good Morning Nigeria, but we're still here, and sports is next. Stay with us.
Silas's clinical second half strike